Okay, the meeting is called to order. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and thank you to Veronique for orchestrating the galette fest over there. If you haven't had a chance to grab coffee, galette, whatever the little chocolate things are, croissant, please do. Okay, I forgot my notebook that has my Chief Seattle reading in it, so I guess I'm going to have to email all of you. I'm kidding. So we'll dispense with that. That's number 2. Number 3, there are no Zoom participants, so we will dispense with that. So let's have a roll call, starting with Mr. Howard.
Ted Howard, trustees of the trust funds.
Carolyn Singer, Historic District Commission, Heritage Commission.
Sarah Callahan, alternate.
Gail Carey, member at large.
Ann Welsh, member at large.
Neil Slepian, Conservation Commission.
Todd Selig, I'm the administrator.
John Carroll, Agricultural Commission.
Cardin Welsh, Town Council.
Elliot Ung, alternate.
Veronique Luddington, Land Stewardship Coordinator.
Okay, great. It's really great that so many people showed up today. All right, so we need to approve the meeting agenda. So, let's see.
So moved.
Okay, and seconded by?
Second.
Okay, now we have a discussion in case anybody wants to discuss it. Any discussion? Okay, show of hands for approval, please. And all the ayes raise their hands. Okay, so approved. Okay, any public comments? We have members, we have students from UNH. Would you like to make any public comments? Yeah, tell us who you are, what you're studying, what you hope to accomplish in life, what's your 5-year plan? Either of those microphones is good.
Did they have to say their names?
Of course, you have to say your name and speak into the microphone.
Okay. I'm Serafina Rivera. I'm a second-year master's student in the Earth Science Department. I study geology, volcanology, and myself and Claudia are both in CARPE, Convergent Arctic Research Perspectives and Education, with Liz Burkowski. And in the fall, we started a project looking at how we can use some of the existing data with Spruce Hole Bog. So we're here to just listen about the Land Stewardship Committee and any thoughts that you guys have here, and hopefully connect with you guys over the coming weeks.
Very nice.
Could I ask, what's the Arctic perspective?
Part of it is that there are parts of there are groups who actually do studies in the Arctic. So Stordalen, Sweden, and then we've had groups go to Greenland. But it's based here because New Hampshire has a very similar environment to the Arctic, and so it's a little bit of applying a Arctic perspective and how we can apply maybe studies here to Arctic and finding that convergence in local communities here and local communities in other places in the Arctic as well.
That's very nice.
It's an NSF-funded graduate program, and so we have a cohort of students that we're in our final year of the project, and they wanted to see what it looks like to do convergent research on the ground here in Durham.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
And
I'm Claudia Guillotte-Wallace. I'm also in the Earth Sciences Department. I do geochemistry instead of geology. And yeah, we're just kind of here to see how the stewardship subcommittee meetings work. And then eventually, hopefully we'll do some talking to each other. But for now, we're just here to listen.
great. Well, thank you for being here. And I just want to ask you, do you think that the U.S. should take over Greenland? No?
It is 8:37 a.m.
No, they're a sovereign nation.
No.
You don't have to answer that. You can plead the fifth.
Sorry, I'm Professor Elizabeth Burkowski. I'm teaching a course this spring with the Spruce Hole Bog students. So we have about 7 or 8 of us in there now. It might even be 12, actually. I forget how many enrolled. But we're going to be analyzing the data. We're just, here to observe and listen.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. Okay. All right. Now, we have the pleasure of Ted Howard giving us a presentation about Doe Farm.
You're
And-
interrupting my gullet.
Yeah, if you'd
I
rather
did not hit the king.
chew and swallow. Yeah, take your time.
All right. I guess I'm ready to press the magic button here, Craig. We'll find out, right? It was green. Voila.
Well, that's great. Hey, ladies, can you give me 1 second? Ladies, if you want to help yourself to coffee, tea, or a treat over there, help yourself. Okay. Okay, Ted, sorry.
Well, good morning. On behalf of the trustees of the trust funds, I'm pleased to present a summary of the forest management plan that we just had completed by Merino Forestry Associates this past June, and it's been through some reviews. And what my goal here today is to provide not the nitty-gritty details, but maybe to do a little deep dive in a couple of things, as well as provide you with an overview. I think many of you are familiar with the Doe Farm, or at least know where it is, so I'll sort of slide through those questions. So a brief presentation outline here. Going to do an overview of the Doe Farm, speak a little bit about the goals and objectives that the trustees have for that property, as well as getting into some of the details about some of the management that we're going to be employed. It's going to be employed to bring about those realization of those goals. Talk a little bit about the climate resilience. That was a special part of this management plan, and then touch on some ecological dimensions. Everything that you see here comes out of the management plan prepared by Merino Associates, and they hold the copyright there too. So I need to give credit to those folks. A quick overview. The Doe Farm's about 85 acres along the Lamprey River, about 2,800 linear feet along the river, and another 7,500 feet of shoreline on La Roche Brook and around Moat Island. The breakdown of the land is about a little over 70 acres in forest, about 9 acres in wetland, and 4 acres of open. That covers like the home site and cemetery and those sorts of places. And the road network covers about 4 acres. Property came to the town in trust in 1909 with the original idea that this would be maintained as a farm. Well, that never happened. And by the 1920s, a lot of pine and spruce were planted out there, white pine, red pine, and Norway spruce. We'll come back to that in a little while. And a more formal forest management activities began in the 1970s. And our current consultant, Charlie Marino, has been the consulting forester on that property at least 25 years. So he's been managing it on behalf of, or suggesting what we do and overseeing what they do. A quick overview of the forest resources out there. The dominant species are eastern white pine, red maple, and red oak. The forest types are white pine and hardwoods, and also into pure white pine. There's a stand of fairly pure Norway spruce, some upland hardwoods, and some forested wetlands. The next 3 dimensions, the average diameter at breast height is about 14 inches. Basal area is a measure of the cross-sectional area of a tree. And a number of like 115 tells you you have a reasonably well-stocked stand, not overstocked, not understocked. The volume per acre at 38 cords, that's the board footage and the cordwood and everything all added together, that's fairly high. So I'm trying to think of, there's another property I've been associated with, the York Watershed District over in Maine, and they run about 38 to 40 cords to acre, and they've been managing their forest for 40, 50 years as well. So the forest is, in terms of those dimensions, is I think, in very good shape.
So is it, excuse me if I may ask a question, is there a target number of cords per acre that a forester would be looking for?
No, because it depends on the species mix and the goals that you have for the property. Our goals are probably conducive to having some number in the high 30s, low 40s.
Okay.
I don't want to go too much higher than that, and you don't want to get down in the low 20s.
Okay, thank you.
Very specific places you might get down in that far, but on average, 38 is a very nice number. Yes.
Yeah, Ted, what would like an average pine forest, untended, wild be? Do you have any idea?
Oh, well, it would again depend upon how old it was, but let's make a really big old growth white pine. It'll be well up over that.
Okay.
Pine is one of those left untended, let to grow,
Grows and grows.
get to be this big or bigger around, spread that across 80 acres, and you've got some serious volumes of wood. Eastern white pine will actually outgrow most southern pines in the long run. You can have much greater volumes.
Yeah, but, so, I'm going to piggyback on this. If you're talking about real old growth forest, you're talking about trees, some of those big trees fall down, and you get this mixed diversity of different aged stems, ultimately. So what Ted is talking about and what I visualized was something with not a lot of understory. It hadn't reached that really old growth stage.
Right.
You have to understand that when trees get big, they die, and they're more and more susceptible to different types of natural disturbances, which create all these pockets, which create this understory growth, which means you have smaller trees, right? And so then you're starting to push that number down. So really, it goes up and up, but then after a while, it plateaus, but actually then it starts to go down a little bit, right? Once you really hit that old growth stage.
Yep.
So I don't know if we really know what that number is.
We don't, and a good place to see a difference would be to go to the College Woods natural area.
Yeah.
There are some big pine in that area. You'll also see that big pine is breaking up and falling down. And the terrain underneath it's being taken over by hemlock.
And they lost their Paul Bunyan tree,
Yes,
right?
they did.
Right, in College Woods.
The
not
massive
too long ago.
Paul Bunyan tree, so-called, because it was the biggest one in the woods, in the College Woods, was 135 feet tall and
Keep going.
that much in diameter. It was huge, and it just snapped off.
Wow.
This year?
Oh, no,
Oh, no, about
No,
20
like
25 years ago at least.
Oh.
hurricane.
I think the stub is still there. So someday if somebody wants to go see it, I'd be happy to take you to it. Anyway, the trustees met with the consulting forester, and we had an extended discussion about our goals and objectives, and I've got them laid out here, and I'm just going to hit the bold points. Maintain a healthy forest ecosystem, protect and conserve lands that are sensitive to disturbance, manage public use, because we get a lot of that, mitigate the impacts of climate change, store carbon, and collaborate with our sister agencies and other organizations. Did I get that right? Yeah. And so if we dive a little deeper into, say, the healthy forest ecosystem, sustainably harvest timber, which will actually fund the trust, which helps us manage that forest. And I've highlighted a couple things here in bold, italic, because we'll come back to them. Horizontal and vertical structural habitat diversity for wildlife, and in control invasive species, and obviously protect water quality. So let's take a little deeper dive into the vertical and horizontal structural diversity. So vertical diversity, we're retaining older trees, maintaining the snags and the coarse woody debris. In fact, thinking about recruiting snags into the overstory and maintaining that healthy mid-story. And we'll get to the how you do that fairly soon. And horizontal diversity by getting some openings in the canopy across the property. And all of these practices will help maintain and enhance the plant species diversity that we've got out there. When I gave this presentation to the Lamprey River Advisory Council, they asked about, well, what about wildlife? And I think one of our alternate trustees asked about wildlife. And I adopt one of my former colleagues at the University of New Hampshire's mantra, Dr. Peekins, Peter Peekins was a Durham resident, says, if you build it, they will come. So if the habitat is there, if the critters are around, they'll come to it. So, we don't typically in forestry manage for specific species unless it's something really special, like a red cockaded woodpecker down south, or gopher tortoises or something like that. So the other part of our healthy forest ecosystem, yes.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but so have they seen bobcat and fisher cats?
I don't know. I would assume that at least one of those has probably wandered through the property at some point. Whether they're resident there is hard to say. We don't, trail, wildlife cameras and things like that are expensive. And,
You're right.
And we're not in a position to take care of that. But if we've got the habitat for them and they want to show up, they'll show up.
I know there's some wandering around Durham, so
yeah, they
seems
are.
like Doe Farm would be a great place for it.
So we do have an invasive species problem down there, and it was mapped in 2015, and you can see, you can see some red lines in the middle which show our most intensive infestations, mostly of glossy buckthorn. And over the last few years, we've done some treatments out there. I know Sarah's been involved with some of that stuff, not only taking care of some volunteer hand pulling, but also helping to oversee contracts with professional contractors to do some herbicide spray and some cutting and painting and foliage. More recently, what our consultant has done is divide this up into essentially 6-acre blocks with a focus on the buckthorn. The idea that these relatively small blocks allows us to kind of keep track of what's going on and also to say, okay, we've been here, we haven't been here. And it's a way to keep track of what you're doing. And we do, as we said, mechanical and chemical treatments in the worst sectors. We've had success.
Yeah.
The buckthorn has been knocked back. We don't intend and cannot eliminate it, but can we knock it back enough to get the native tree species started underneath? And our examinations out there suggest that we've had some success. So we'll continue monitoring that, and I've had some conversations with some colleagues recently, in fact earlier this month, about designing a formal monitoring program so that we can get out there on a regular basis and keep track of what's going on. So we'll see how that evolves. Another objective that we could take a deep dive on would be to conserve and protect the lands. In this case, we've designated some reserves. Moat Island, 16 acres, and that has a silver maple, false nettle, sensitive fern ecological community on the property, on that island. You don't see very many of those kinds of things around. So that will be in the protected area. This so-called West Triangle, let's see if I can get a cursor. Yeah, I can't get a cursor, but the bright yellow spot on the left, that's on the other side of the railroad tracks. We have no way to get to that property. Can't go across the railroad tracks, and probably not the neighbors in that housing development further to the left to the west probably would not want us driving across their ground or parading through their backyards to get to that ground. So it's, might as well just stay where it is. And so that's been designated a reserve. We also have some interior wetlands, and in the main block, those are the things highlighted in yellow as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those. Interesting enough, that top block is also where some of the buckthorn is nastiest. Yes?
No, it's I mean, that's what, we did 2 years of treatments up there. So,
Public use is a big part of what the Doe Farm's all about, and it's a very popular area for hiking. There's about 3 miles of trails. There's not much parking, and there's a cute little kiosk, which I guess at some point the signage will get upgraded, if not the actual kiosk itself. There's some picnic areas down along the Lamprey River, and as we do with all the other properties, we don't want campfires and camping. And those have been a problem, and probably will continue to be a problem on Moat Island, because lots of people just come down the river and say, well, no one can see me here. So, that's about where we are. Cultural and historic resources, there is a cellar hole, a cemetery, there's a stone well cap, and there's about 3,000 feet of stone walls. And so anytime there's a forestry operation down there, they need to move some stones to get some equipment from point A to point B, then when they're done, they put the stones back. We did get a grant, thanks to Sarah, from the Stratford Regional Planning Commission to take a specific look at how forest management plans could address issues of climate change. And that's a specific focus of this particular plan. So one is understanding what climate change might be doing to our forest, and then what we might do in response to that to mitigate those issues, and then also take a look at how much carbon we are storing. Just not that our 85 acres is going to make a huge difference, but it'd be nice to know. So building on some work by Ali Kashiba from the University of Vermont Extension Service, our natural forest management practices that would help mitigate climate change include promoting species diversity. So the little initials after SD, species diversity, forest structure, FS, FG, so on, forest growth, vigor, soil health, hydrologic functions. She used the word native, faunal, suite. Okay, what does that mean? That means wildlife. So WI, and then ecological linkages and so forth. So with that, we would look at how we might address some of those things. So our strategy we've already described about increasing the structural complexity in both the vertical and horizontal dimensions. And how does that address the forest resilient purposes, going back to the letters? Forest structure, wildlife, ecological linkages are the 3 FSWIELs. We also get to sequester and store carbon. So what do we do on the Doe Farm to do all that, to accomplish this? And so we have a fairly light silvicultural harvest that improves the structure by retaining that high canopy, establishing the younger cohorts underneath that canopy, and then by having patchwork of these regeneration openings scattered across the property and expanded over time, embedded in older forests and middle-aged forests, we get some heterogeneous horizontal diversity as well. And we try to keep the snags and the down woody debris, which also adds to the structural dimensions of the forest.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
You mentioned, the snags and down woody debris really come from that kind of like natural dieback, which, so you see that kind of, in older growth forests, it's a component of that. And with kind of regular maintenance of forest management practices, you can start to see less of that within the forest. And I'm wondering if Charlie had like a idea of how Doe Farm kind of stacked up to kind of a natural forest and whether or
Yeah,
not
that's
forest would
specifically,
integrate.
but
Because it also is a big source of carbon storage too.
Right.
Within a
yeah, and we'll
forest
get to that
ecosystem.
here in just a second. Given my professional background and Charlie's background, we're both familiar with something called Good Forestry in the Granite State, which is a document put out by the professionals in the state through the Cooperative Extension Service. And there are some guidelines on the number of snags per acre that you'd like to have. So there's possibilities as you go through time to specifically say, okay, do we have enough? Do we need to begin even recruiting? So if there's a marginal tree that you might not want, not going to contribute to your income, but it's one you might want to remove or not have there anymore. Instead of cutting it down, you can just simply girdle it in place and let it die and recruit a snag, and then it will become a snag over time. So there are ways to address that, but there's no specific numbers. But there is guidance in the Good Forestry in the Granite State about snags per acre. And that has to do with large snags and small and medium snags as well. And so, yeah, we'll be attentive to that. Plus, we do get there is some other things coming down the pike that we'll touch on here at the end that also suggest that we're not going to have much problem recruiting dead trees.
Okay.
Anyway, we did take a run at what do we have for carbon storage out there, and so through a couple of methodologies, the living, the stuff above and below ground, there's a methodology called by the Van Dorns, and then Merino Forestry Associates did some sampling out there, both the standing dead and the dead and the down, and converted that into carbon storage. And we ended up with about, I should point out, this is only on the main part of the forest. This is not in the reserve parts. So basically the big 50-acre block. And there's about 10,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent stored out there. So,
Ted, what about in the wood that's been harvested? There's still carbon in that wood.
yes, and so some of that gets into long-term storage, and some of it is relatively short-term. So if it gets converted to paper, however long paper lasts versus however long structural timber lasts. But yes, there is some carbon storage. Not too long ago, some of it could have gone to the as chips to the power plant down here in Portsmouth when they were. But they're not using wood anymore. But had they been operating and they received chips, then that's a really short release time back into the environment.
Does much of it get used for construction?
This last harvest was mostly focused on red pine. Red pine's scale had killed a bunch and was killing more, and eventually going to kill all of the red pine there. So that was sort of salvaged. A lot of that ends up in cabin logs, shipped up into processing facilities in Canada that use that stuff. So to the extent that it got used for that, if it's of sufficiently straight, which red pine tends to be, and the right size, then it can go to that purpose. Otherwise, it's going to end up at the pulp mill.
So there might be another 10% or something on this?
Yeah, I'd hesitate to, on that last one,
so I can't quote you on that.
a number. And I don't know.
And
Ted said 10%.
it also gets a little bit more nuanced.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I mean, Allie would be able to tell you much more than I do, but like, and it depends on tree species and where you are in the forest, but essentially a lot, I want to say on average, probably half of the carbon storage is actually in the soil underground. It's the root system. So when you do remove a tree, you're not actually removing all of the carbon stored because you have this whole underground root system and organic matter within that forest soil.
Is there a percentage on that?
There is. I would have to look it up.
Okay.
I can get you materials if you really like. There's a lot.
That'd be interesting to
She
know.
actually has,
Yeah.
Allie has like a publication that she put out, which is really,
It's a big chunk.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
What, the above ground or below
Underground.
ground?
the below ground.
Below ground, yeah. I want to say, I know that if I say 50%, I'm going to
Right.
be,
And
I'm in the ballpark, but I'm going to be wrong, and it's like, so.
And I think some of that also, so the above and below ground number that we have here refers to the trees. There's also a bunch in the soil carbon. And probably a significant, maybe even more in the soils.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. You know, Durham has this carbon action plan, and they look at how much carbon is released each year by Durham and how we're handling that. And it's incredible how much in Durham is stored because we have so much natural land that, I don't remember the percentage, Todd, but it's very, very significant. It was really surprising.
It offsets our annual emissions by about 25% or so.
Yeah.
It's very big.
So-
Ted, question. I know the public has no access to the land on the other side of the tracks, but has your committee had any access over there? And do you have a sense of having studied it and knowing what's there and so on?
Well, I've never walked on that side of it, because there's really no way to get to it unless you,
No one's asked the landowners for permission to cross their property?
not that I know of.
Okay.
You know, you can see it from the photography.
Yep.
You can type it out pretty well. You get a sense that there are some large trees over there because you can visually see them. But they don't pay me enough as chair of the trustees to walk across the railroad track.
Plus the railroad will give permission if it's requested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
We could, there's Stewart that lives right next door on that side there.
Oh, okay.
I think Chris is his name, Trail Stewart. So if you really wanted access, he lives, his home abuts that, and he's a trail steward on Doe Farm.
yeah, which would make it easy.
Cold Spring Road.
Okay.
Yes,
Yep.
that's right. So anyway, we do store carbon, I guess that's the point, and more than we thought. A couple of things on ecological dimensions to try to move this along. There are some threats. We've already talked about the invasive plant species. There are some insects and diseases, and this gets back to the snag recruiting. We now have some evidence out there of beech leaf disease, which is a huge threat to the beech tree population. We continue to have hemlock woolly adelgid. We don't have any spongy moth at the moment, but that doesn't mean we're not going to have it. That's what we used to call gypsy moth. And certainly the emerald ash borer is making its presence known in Durham. And so we will expect to see the demise of our ash trees and probably lose some more hemlock and beech. So we will be recruiting snags out there through no deliberate action on our own. It's going to be happening. We did check with the state in terms of rare, threatened, and endangered species, and there's enough. The way the state does this is different than neighboring Maine does. If there's been a sighting of a rare, threatened, and endangered species somewhere near the property, there's essentially a 1-mile circle dropped randomly around that point. It's not necessarily in the center of that point. So you don't really know if you have anything, but the reports from the state are, we don't have any rare endangered species specifically on the property, given the map. That doesn't mean it's not there. Back to the earlier issue, if you build it, they will come. If it's a habitat suitable for a rare and endangered animal species, they might show up. but we don't have any particular record of that. By contrast, if you contact the Maine Natural Heritage Bureau and you've had a sighting of a rare critter, they will show you specifically on a map where it was sighted. And if it's on your property, then you know it. So a little different approach to how that's done. Obviously, we do work with the Land Stewardship Subcommittee and our Land Stewardship Coordinator, as well as the Department of Public Works in terms of managing that property. Lamprey River Advisory Committee is, because the Lamprey River is right there, Stratford Regional Planning Commission because of their interest in climate change. UNH has used the property for teaching purposes before, and we probably can cajole them into helping us out with some other things in the future. And obviously, Fish and Game is important, Natural Heritage, and any of the NGOs in the area. So we will continue to work with all of those folks in collaboration with our consultant and the rest of the trustees. And just to acknowledge, we did have 2 grants. I think Sarah arranged for both of them, one with the Stratford Regional Planning Commission and the other with the Lamprey River Advisory Committee. And buried under all of those grants are some of the federal agencies listed here, including NOAA and National Park Service, and some of the state agencies, DES and the Coastal Program. So thanks to all of them for helping get this produced. So one of the things I did not mention early on in the presentation is that one of the things we have as a goal for our healthy forest management is to be certified as a tree farm, as an external validation that we are managing the forest sustainably. And I received forwarded from Veronique, a letter from the tree farm system indicating that we have been certified as a tree farm, as sustainably managing the forest, and that continues, I think, for 5 years.
Yep.
So that notification just came in within the last week and a half. I knew it was coming, but it was nice to get it officially confirmed. So with that, that's the. I think it probably ended up taking a little longer, but we did questions along the way, so that's fine.
I've got a few questions, and we still have some time, so if you'll indulge me, how much money do you make out of the timber harvest, and how often is that done?
Okay. We've had 2 timber harvests within the last 20 years. One was about 5 years ago, actually, January of 2001. And that was the red pine salvage, so we were getting in there to get the red pine out.
2021?
Or 21.
Okay.
Yep. In January in the winter. The other harvest before that was probably 15 plus years before that. It's actually in the management plans described.
Early 2000s.
2000, could be
Yeah,
20 years ago.
Early 2000s.
Yeah.
And
It doesn't generate it's 80 acres. We don't hit it hard. It doesn't generate a huge pile of money. $8,000 or $9,000 maybe.
okay. So the idea, though, originally was that it be maintained for harvesting, so it would be self-sustaining in terms of income?
It will probably never ever pay for all of the costs down there, but it covers some of them.
Okay, well, that's interesting. Now, first of all, great presentation. Thank you for doing it. So I wanted to follow up on the invasives plan, because that's one of the things that applies to all of our properties. And the way that it was mapped out is just really impressive. And it's also, kind of frightening to hear just how many acres there are of the invasives out there, and how you and the other people working on it have done a good job knocking back the buckthorn. So I guess the question I have is, how could that be, in thinking about our public properties overall, how could that process be applied to other properties that we have problems with invasives? Like, I know like on the Thompson Forest, for example, there's a lot of invasives, and Oyster River Forest, and probably many more. So do you have any thoughts on that?
One could do exactly what was done at the Doe Farm. It's not inexpensive. You're paying for professional time to go out there and identify whether it's Veronique as or land stewardship activities, or you hire somebody to do it for them. For us, somebody has to be on the ground to actually map that.
Yeah, walking around, looking.
Go
And,
and walk.
yeah, that
Gotta
sounds like a big
go out
project.
and feed the tick population is what you'll be doing. Yeah, that's, on the ground is how you find that stuff, and then you get it mapped, and then if you have, then as we did, you try to decide whether this is important enough to undertake treatment, and then depending upon the treatment, which ranges everywhere from volunteer, in the case of buckthorn, volunteer hand pulling and a little bit of mechanical work, to full-blown professional and fairly expensive.
To actually get in there. So does...
But it can work, but it needs to be, you need to know where to hit it, you have priorities, and you need to be consistent and vigilant.
Yeah, I'd imagine. So
Have
that
a
9
longer
or
run
10,000...
view of things.
What's that?
And have a long run plan to deal with it.
So the $9,000 or $10,000 from timber harvesting every 15 years would not be sufficient, I'd imagine.
Probably not. I think the more recent contracts have been in the range of a couple, $3,000-$4,000.
Yeah, 4,000 the last.
So
For the mapping?
Yeah. For what?
Oh,
No, the invasives treatment.
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
treatment.
chemical treatment.
Yeah,
Right.
chemical treatment.
But you have to map it first before you can put a plan together to
You
treat
really,
it. So
you got to know where you are, and then
How much did that cost?
that I don't know.
Does anybody have a drone that they could loan them?
Well,
That
drone's
be
not
done by
going
drone?
Drone will give you a little bit, but not much. You got to get down on the ground.
All right, well, that's our long-term plan for the properties, obviously, is to do the best we can to control invasives, or we'll just be owning properties with invasives. So I'm just thinking, what you've done is so impressive that there must be some way that we can get a handle on it for the other properties, or from the high risk properties. So anyway, it's really good. The other question I had, you talked about the historic sites on the property. So then that made me think of your subcommittee for the historic sites, and that's part of what we want to do when we get the trail maps upgraded, is to put that on there. So do you know if anybody on your team, Carolyn, has a knowledge of all of those sites on the Doe
Yes,
Farm?
Janet Mackey is really the person who has done a lot of work on Durham.
Okay.
So she's pretty much the local expert.
She's the one. Okay. Well, we got some good news. Actually, I'll just kind of digress on that. When Veronique and I met with Steve Letterman about using the GIS equipment to do the mapping, and he said that when the map is going to be created, we can follow up shortly thereafter with the historic sites in terms of their exact location. So that kind of gives us a little flexibility for getting that done.
So I have one question for all of you is, the management plan is 90 pages in excruciating detail. But it's a public document in the sense that we commissioned it as trustees, and it should be available. The question comes, where do we make it available? It's pretty simple to put it on the trustees page, but people who want to find out about the management of the Doe Farm are not going to look on the trustees page.
Should be on the Doe Farm page.
On the Doe Farm
Yeah,
page.
yeah, we just ask Craig to upload it and add it at the bottom of the
Okay,
page
so
where
I
all the
should
documents
send the
are.
plan to you?
Sure, yeah.
I'll send the plan to you,
Yeah.
and we can put it up.
Yeah, it absolutely should be on the Doe Farm page.
And then a note for Todd, given the Friday updates. So in talking with the Lamprey River Advisory Committee, they were curious about how we make this known, and I indicated that, Friday updates would be a place to do three things altogether. One, make it known that the management plan is there. Two, we have been certified as a tree farm, recognizing sustainable management. And three, that we had the support of the Stratford Regional Planning Commission and the Lamprey River Association in developing this management plan, so that I can craft something along that line. Do I send it to you?
Yes, if you could do that. And then it would be great if we could get the plan to Craig to post on the
First.
website.
Right,
And then we
right.
can do a link from your write-up to the plan.
Exactly.
And that would be great.
Yeah. So, yeah, this not going to happen this week, but and I can save you taking pictures just by giving you
Oh,
a
okay,
copy of
good,
this.
thank you. Okay. All right, anybody else have any questions? Oh, yeah, you were gonna
I
say
just
something.
wanted to amend something I said earlier in terms of carbon sequestration. The Climate Action Plan says that Durham's forests and trees sequester up to 28,204 mtCDE per year, equal to about 29% of Durham's total emissions.
Wow, that's really impressive.
All right, so sequestration is different than storage. All right, so sequestration is the ability of the forest to add to their carbon stock that they have,
It's a
right?
rate.
And so younger forests actually are better at carbon sequestration because they're growing at a much faster rate. Older forests tend to are storing a lot of carbon, but they are not sequestering as much carbon. So it's
So the
kind of a trade-off.
29% is the sequestration rate,
Yes.
not the storage rate?
Well, it's
Okay.
what it's what they sequester, they sequester up to the 28,000 number per year.
Right.
So that's,
So,
They're adding to their
Yeah.
carbon stock.
so if you think about, maybe if you think of it this way, our emissions are negative sequestration. We're adding to the carbon sink. So as you drive your car, consume things, breathe, rot, whatever, you're adding carbon to the system to the extent that our natural cover is sucking some off, that's the sequestering.
Right.
So emissions are sort of negative sequestration, that's how I look at it. Your annual emissions are negative sequestration. And you're offsetting 29%. That's really good.
Okay, thank you so much. Oh, yeah, you had a question, yeah.
Quick question, Ted, you may have mentioned this and I missed it, but what is the plan moving forward regarding managing public use to protect the health of the forest? Were there any specific thoughts on that?
Well, at this point, we're in fairly good shape in terms of, the trails are in good shape. I think all the stream crossings are in reasonably good shape. Parking's limited, but okay, we're not going to be able to expand that because we sure don't want people driving all the way down in there. So what we've done most recently was take some action to make here to end camping and fires have been posted. I know Veronica's been out there, tore down some fire pits and things like that. So we're trying to manage that. And there's some trail maps down there, so I think we're in reasonably good shape in terms of public use, except for keeping after the use at Mode Island.
Yeah, and that, I had that question because you had these designations of reserves, and it's unclear to me what you mean by that, because there is a trail on Mode Island.
Right.
Which, so is a reserve just an area that you're not going to have active forest management?
Right.
Or is
Yeah,
a
that's-
reserve
that's-
a term that you're using to say that we're going to
Reserve from this.
limit access, all
No,
public access
we're-
to?
It would be impossible to
Right.
keep people out of those places. So our idea of reserve is, we're not going in there to harvest timber.
Okay.
There will be no heavy equipment, no forwarders, no mechanical harvesting. gear and things like that.
Okay.
So whatever processes are going to happen out there, I won't say they're completely natural because we're going to we'll have to answer the question about natural areas and invasive species. It may be one of those things where if we want to have a natural reserve and it's starting to get overrun by buckthorn, we might want to think about whether you want to do something about that.
Yeah, and when is the next, when does Charlie think the next management will take
Well,
place?
the
or
next
harvest?
active harvest is probably 15, 20 years out. Nothing new. Unless we have a
With the exception
major
of the
mortality
invasives.
event of some kind, whether it's a hurricane or an infestation of some kind.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Do we know if there's any just sort of road trails in the area that is on the other side of the railroad tracks? I mean, do we know if the neighborhood uses that area? Or if there's even just
I don't
trails
know.
that cut
I've not
through
been-
to?
As I said, I've not been over there, and so whether
No.
anybody, I assume that I would not be surprised if somebody in the neighborhood hasn't figured a way to wander around in there, but,
I also wondered if, so have we done some invasive work in that area at all?
To the
area that's
triangle?
set off, yeah, by the
west.
train tracks.
no.
No.
Because I know just living in a neighborhood where there's a piece of UNH property that is not tended to. We're having invasion of, you know, a variety of different invasives from that property into our, and I just wondered if we end up with a lot of invasives there, if they'll eventually start to complain about. Just a thought. I'll try to connect with the trail steward Sarah mentioned to see if we can access there from the other side. I mean, it would be good, because I don't think flying drone will be, you know, we're not going to see below the canopy, so, yeah.
Okay, we're going to move on. Thank you, Ted. Thank you very much. Great.
No, I had a
Great
question for
presentation.
Ted,
Yes.
sorry. Can we meet up at some point about doing what we had said, like working with the students for mapping with the
Yeah,
transect?
we should do that.
Yeah, you said you had some you have
I had
talked.
some interest.
Preliminary.
Not a lot.
Okay, yeah, I had reached out to a couple students I had mentioned that did a volunteer work day. One of them said she's gonna come back to me after the break, so, but that was one person. So.
Okay, Veronique, you are up next with
next?
kiosk construction and trail mapping update.
I'd be happy to.
Oh, by the way, Ted, one of the properties that has been identified to get a small kiosk in the parking lot is Doe Farm. So I just wanted to bring that up while we were on the topic.
So,
Are you doing wireless?
yep.
Wow. First time.
Well, it worked very well for Dad, so.
If we're going to put a kiosk out by
There
the,
you go.
Oh, okay.
might be a good idea to get a bona fide tree farm sign on that as well.
Right, that's a good idea. Yeah, we'll
Oh,
consult
good.
with you
Yeah.
Do
anyway.
they, is there one out there?
There is, but it's
There
kind
is.
of like on the hill.
Yeah.
Right,
It's
when
on
we-
a hill, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like at a
Obvious
really
place.
good location, I would
Yeah,
think.
it-
Yeah,
reflect on that.
yeah, and we can contact them to get the sign. So yeah, mentioned small kiosk kits. So Mari's not here to talk about big kiosk, but we had talked about having just some like little localized kiosk. So I used some of the supplies money from the end of the year to buy some materials, and we're building benches. And so obviously, I don't know if everybody can see, but a volunteer has kindly prepped all the kits for the scouts to assemble the benches. They're fairly accessible benches. They're 17 inches high per the recommendation, and they have an armrest which help people stand up. So it's a little evolved Leopold bench type. So we have 10 kits. We're gonna put them together with the scouts on the 20th. Rachel from Parks and Recs is kindly allowing us to use her room to do that. So that'll be great. And so each bench ended up costing about $42. And we also built, so we have kits for 4 small kiosks. They're just 2x3 information kiosks. It was just like a little start for some places that we know need a small kiosk. We can just print and laminate a map or an information, pamphlet, but it doesn't need to be elaborated right now. Those kiosks we can move over time. And so we thought, we had a meeting with Neil, Ann, and I last week, and we thought about store-worthy, and that there's no kiosk. There's just a sign at the old Baghdad Road entrance, which not very many people use. We kind of talked about. So we talked about putting a small kiosk at the entrance on Baghdad Road, because that's where most people seem to be entering that whole property, that's shared with the school district. So we thought we could put a kiosk there with a map that clearly defines where the school district lands are and where store-worthy, the property is, now that it's been mapped, surveyed. At Doe Farm, we had talked about having a small kiosk just to put a small map to kind of show people that they have to walk a ways ahead to get to the real informational kiosk and kind of like the start of the trails. Because when you're on the parking lot, if you're a person who's never been there, you see a parking lot and you can't see obviously the main kiosk from the gate. So nobody knows how far you have to walk, or I think it detracts some people probably from using the property. So we thought it would be good to have a small kiosk there by the gate to just get people situated. And then Long March on the east end, so the end where you start from Durham Point Road. There's a sign that says something about dogs from the town of Durham, but that's it. There's no sign that you can access the Sweet Trail from there. There's really no information. So sort of putting a small kiosk there, right by the gate again, with a map, and that's the access to the Sweet Trail. And then at Milne, I just feel that at Milne, it's a small park, but it would be nice if we put together information about the history of the site and what the site is being used for now, how we're managing the natural resource, etc. So obviously we have to, put together what's going to be on those signs, but at least we'll have the kiosk are done, and they'll be stored at Wagon Hill Farm, benches too, until we can put them around the properties in the spring. I thought as I walk the properties to remap the trails, which I'll talk about a little later, I can figure where we most need benches. Like at Oyster River Forest, that's really a long trek to that one bench by the end of the meadow before you re-enter the forest. So we could put some there. And it's a good start, and then we can figure, if we need to build more, at least we know how much they cost. It's not very costly. And go from there. So that's a good winter project.
Can I add something, Veronique?
Mm-hmm.
That these benches are built to the standards that were recommended by, forgetting the name.
Aldo Leopold.
Well, Aldo Leopold himself, yes.
Yes.
He was a consultant. Northwest Passage. That's
Northeast Passage.
Yeah,
But Leopold's the
Northeast
first one.
Passage. What's that?
Leopold's the first one to build the benches.
Yeah, that's a wonderful design.
They're very heavy and designed really to take the outdoor weather for a long period of time.
Yeah, and Northeast Passage was the one recommended. We had more, and also the study that was done by Enoch had recommended that we add more seating areas, for people spread out. So that's where we got from. And the 2x3 kiosk, the ID I got the ID. The TNC just put some of those actually smaller kiosks at some of the entry points of the Sweet Trail. As you know, the Sweet Trail has many different entry points. They have a couple ones on Dame Road, and so they put those smaller kiosks spread across the Sweet Trail to say like, that's where you are, you know. And I think that's a good size. It's manageable. We can move, you know, we can move it or use it somewhere else if at some point we deem, or we can replace it by a bigger kiosk. But it's a good intermediary sign for now to have.
Veronique, I'm sorry, did you say all the benches are going in the Oyster River Forest?
No. I said the Oyster River Forest was one of the places that we really need to add benches.
And we haven't decided where else they're going?
No, when I walk the trails and I'll just remap like where all the benches are existing already, then we can figure what's the best place to have extra benches.
But if anybody has any ideas or suggestions, you know, throw them out.
I know the ones at Thompson Forest were in disrepair.
Yes.
And
yeah.
a couple have been pulled, so that might be another property to see,
Right.
to replace kind of the ones that have worn out or are wearing out.
Right, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, that's a good, you know, a start. We got the materials to make 10, and then we can go from there later. And we're also talking, just as I'm talking about wood items, we're also talking about making small wooden signs. You know, like when you're in the mountains, you have those wooden signs that are CNC carved or router carved for some of the trails. And I'm going to work with Elliot. There's a CNC machine at UNH, and otherwise we could possibly use the ports, you know, just a regular router, and make some of those signs. They are inexpensive. We can just use, you know, 2x4s and make some signs. Some places would be benefiting from having some signs, like I'm thinking even in Doe Farm, a couple places, you know, so people could be situate themselves better, or know, and especially know how far. Like for example, it would be nice for people to know how far they have to walk from the Long March East End to the connection with the Sweet Trail, or things like that. So same, we have to determine this. I have a small list started, but we would definitely benefit, and that's very inexpensive, obviously, to make. So.
Veronique, have you touched base with Joanne Glode at all? Because I know at one point there was discussion about, sorry, the Great Bay Resource Protection Partnership. Sorry.
Okay.
Getting new trails for the, new signs for the Sweet Trail.
Yes, so I've installed some of the new signs that Joanne had made for the Sweet Trail, and that's what gave me the idea to kind of like parallel on that, and it's in the process of working with also with the reserve, with the Fish and Game part, and yes. So
right, in the Forest Society, right?
Yeah,
That whole,
yeah, but she had a
partnership.
multitude of signs done. She also had the tin signs redone for the Sweet Trail, which we've changed on the Durham
awesome.
property.
Great.
They are more visible. It's just a small improvement, but they are much more visible to the eye when you're looking for those tin signs. So all those have been replaced.
How many, Veronique, how many benches will there be total that are in this,
10 right now.
that are going to be assembled by the Boy Scouts on the
Yes.
24th? Okay,
Yeah,
great.
yeah, and we assembled one as an example so the scouts can see what it looks like, and we'll bring all the tools, and we have a pretty detailed chart of how to, you know, each step. It's kind of like an, I don't know,
like
IKEA
IKEA.
process,
Yeah.
like, you know,
IKEA,
from
right.
this to this to this, and we've numbered all the pieces of wood are labeled and stuff by our friend volunteer Rob. So I think, and we'll have, I know you're going to help a couple volunteers, and scout parents are going to be helping too. So.
It'll be interesting to see what they look like when they're done. Maybe not exactly like that, but should be close. That's going to be a fun day. I think that's great. So,
Yeah.
This is the 24th of January.
Yes.
yeah, anybody who wants to help out,
Yeah, it's going to
come on
start
by.
at 9 a.m. Yeah, and then they'll help. Like, you know, we're gonna transport them to Wagon Hill Farm to the basement and store them there. So, yeah. So on the trail mapping, because that's part of the same item. So Neil and myself met, so I don't know if everybody was here at the last Land Stewardship meeting, but Steve Lutterman came because he heard that we were talking about mapping, and he said, he basically said that the mapping should stay in-house, and that there was a project of the town for a long time to have everything done in-house, to have everything matching for different reasons. So he set up a meeting with us, and Neil and I attended, I think, and Carden, you were away. So what came out of this is, well, first, I'm gonna be borrowing the equipment that they have at the DPW, which is a GNSS and Evolve GPS, to map accurately all the trails and the points of interest. I think, Sarah, you had started mapping some of the points of interest.
Yeah, I think about half the properties
Yeah,
are done, so you should touch
three
base
of-
with
yeah.
Steve, just to, and there is, there, through ArcGIS.
Yep.
In the background.
Yep.
That you will see which ones were.
Yeah, I've seen that. So,
Okay.
so there's a glossary basically in ArcGIS that allows somebody walking with a GPS, let's say, to pinpoint where there's a bench, where there's a bridge, when there's any amenity, we can pinpoint the historical features, things like that. He clearly explained that I have to finish those first, the points of interest, and then map the trails separately, because to map the trails accurately, you can't like stop and go to, to input a feature there. So this is just like the field collection part, which will be the on-the-ground part that needs to be accomplished first before we do anything else. We had, and Neil can give his point of view on that, we tried to hold Steve to having a timeline if we were going to work with him. So if we manage, which I think is totally feasible, to acquire all the data on the Field Maps app by the end of June, which is, the field collection, the information collection, then Steve said that he could work with us to produce maps by November. Is that what I heard?
Yes, exactly.
Thank you. So we still need to, I'm going to do the data collection first, because that step has to be done no matter who does the maps in the end. So it doesn't matter, we have to do the data collection. And then once that is done, meet with Steve again and see how user-friendly the maps he can produce, because I think we're still talking about two different things, about having maps on the website, have maps that match what he produces for the town, but also having user-friendly maps on kiosks outdoors. To me is still kind of a different thing. So I think we just need to do first things first. I still have not connected, have not reconnected with John Furland. He's really hard to pinpoint. So I left him a message a couple days ago. I'm still waiting to hear from him, because it would be good that we had an estimate to go with, so that we could know, how much he would cost to transform the maps into something user-friendly, and the other part of the sign, the graphic design for the sign, the information sign. So that's still two parts. The information sign is still a different part from the map. Steve said he could possibly also do the informational signs. I'm not, at this point I just want to do the mapping and go from there. I think we need to go through the steps, and I think we still need to talk here, and this committee needs to decide what would the best, what do you want on the kiosk? And I think that's a decision that needs to be made here collaboratively. So.
I have can I ask a question? Because I feel like there are, I know that one goal of the maps is to make sure that we're kind of color coding our maps to match the trail colors. And
yes,
that I know, John naturally did that big project like 5 or 6 years ago at Doe Farm, and so it was done out there. It was done at Oyster River Forest. will that step be taken before these maps are finalized to make sure that kind of like on the ground trails are, tags are colored and that they
Yes.
make sense and that the maps reflect that? And, one example, I know there's no trail signs whatsoever at Wagon Hill Farm. I know that there'll probably be a huge debate about whether or not you should put different colored trail signs out there, but I know that Rachel feels very strongly that it's not really safe to have a property where you don't have any named or color-coded trails or a trails map, because if there is some sort of emergency, there is a lack of ability to find somebody. So I just I would have to think about other properties. Thompson Forest is probably small enough, but I don't know if you've looked at that in your mapping committee
Yes.
and really sat down and looked at the different properties that might need that on the ground trail
Yeah.
signage
Yes.
update.
So that's a good
Okay.
point. So yeah, we talked about that. We talked about that with Steve. He, on his point, seemed fine with the need for color coding or naming trails at Wagon Hill Farm. Wagon Hill Farm, we have to work collaboratively with SRPC because they got the contract to do some of the mapping work after the restoration, shoreline restoration is done, and those trails are moved over there. So I need to find out the timeline on that because they still need no clear timeline. So that's kind of like a side issue. We actually talked about Doe Farm and how some of the trails, there's so many colors there that we were gonna, Neil, Elliot and I were gonna go over there and kind of reevaluate if we can consolidate maybe a couple of the orange and all that in more trails that would make more sense, like one of the trails, two trails could be coordinated into one and make a loop and indicate that it's a loop or things like that. So we need to work on that first, like for example for Doe Farm, and yeah, absolutely. And Oyster River Forest, we talked about that too. I'm gonna contact a group at UNH that had said that did invasives work with me, that said they were interested in helping. We need to retag blaze the trees again. So because most of the signs have now completely disappeared. So that needs to be done too. Because if we have a map with colors, that should be, the trails should be marked. So hopefully this time it stays. We are still thinking of trying one more time to put the plastic markers
But they're higher.
higher.
With a trail camera.
But
maybe.
higher, yeah. But one trail camera per tree is going to be kind of tough. So
Take a step stool out with you and
yeah, something like that. Yeah,
Seriously, yeah.
seriously.
That's how they do it
They're
up in the White Mountains.
Yeah, in the mountains, they're higher.
No, they mark the trees in the middle of the winter up in the whites.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why they get
I know.
their
Standing
markings so
snowshoe.
high.
But I figured maybe that would be a
It's a winner
deterrent
now.
from the tags to be removed again. But that needs to be done. So yes, there's different aspects to the trail mapping that still needs to be, Yes.
Okay.
Question, Veronique. I understand that 10% of the population is colorblind. And so how are trail markers, how do you get around that aspect? Use different shapes or use trail names, or what is the thought around that?
I don't think that has ever come up.
Have you?
So that's a good question.
yeah.
So,
Just from my own experience, there are color palettes made specifically that are more universal, and colorblind people, depending on their colorblindness, can generally look through them. So
Okay.
it's been studied, and we can probably think about that.
That'd be a good thing to keep in mind.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Great question. Thank you.
that's why so many colorblind people get lost in the woods.
there you go.
Okay, I want to keep us moving, but I did
Yeah.
want to just re-emphasize that, we're working on 4 tracks, the track, the kiosk, and now benches. Track 1, that's moving along. Your sign committee, you're going to give us an update next week because you're meeting with the designer.
Well, that is because we're kind of
next month,
stuck in the
rather.
water right now because we really want an
Right.
estimate from John Fernald,
Okay.
who's the
Right.
one who designed the Nature Conservancy sign, Lubberland Creek, that we like so
Right.
much.
Yeah.
So should we just, we have a meeting planned? for-
Yeah, saw your email. Yeah, I was waiting at the end of this week to find out if I can at least have a start of a conversation, or and then. But I feel that until we talk to him, like we're kind of like, we're
We're
not
kind
gonna
of
make any
in limbo at
progress.
the moment, unfortunately.
Right.
Until that,
You're what in the moment?
we're in limbo. The
Oh, in limbo,
kiosk
okay.
sign working group is in limbo until we
Okay.
can,
Right.
Veronique can connect with John.
We also,
Yeah.
I think I forgot to mention, when Neil, Ann, and myself met last week, we also talked about the signs part of the informational sign. We're going to need to write them. And we talked about, a lot of the material is already on the website, or, we can find the material to write something that's public facing, for the signs. So we need to think, one of the things we need to think in the kiosk group is about writing the sign, the informational sign for each property. And we were wondering if like somebody wants to take the lead, we need to divide it. Somebody wants to take a property, or so that's something we need to think about, to talk about, maybe a quick meeting for the kiosk sign group. Is that's what we agreed, right?
So just a little, a little informational thing on the sign about the property. It shouldn't be that difficult because we have it online, but you just can't put that on a sign. So it just needs to be short.
Right, like a
Something short that
synopsis
gives you
of.
an idea of the property.
Yeah, so that's still the content. We need to, figure the content of
Right.
each
Okay.
property if we're going to do informational signs.
Yes, so you're saying there's a benefit of meeting next Monday anyways
Yes,
to have that
because we
discussion.
need to, and we
Yeah.
could maybe divide and
I would
conquer
agree. Yeah, yeah.
properties to
Okay.
write the content. So then we'd have, that's a step forward. We'll have to have the content ready,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, to give direction as to what the layout would be in terms of what needs to be on the sign. So yeah, I think that can definitely be done while you're waiting for the design.
Yeah,
we're
so
waiting
if
for John.
we are all
Together.
available, I
Okay.
think we should keep the meeting to
Yeah,
to
the
discuss that.
26th. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
have another
Great.
meeting to run you, but I did.
Okay.
Have you, I know that Great Gibner just recently redid their signs.
Yes.
And so I don't know who they contracted with,
Yeah. I can ask
but
Cory.
you can
Yeah, I
ask,
can ask
because
Cory,
that might be another option for a
Yeah, good.
contractor.
Yeah, I can ask
If
Cory.
like,
Yeah.
if John isn't following
Yes.
up, or
What's the other
you want another
contact?
number.
Is that?
Oh, that's
Well, it's Great Bay
Estuarine Reserve.
National Estuarine Research Reserve, GBNERR. Gibner.
Yeah, I'll contact Cory.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
contact Cory and ask her. Yeah,
And-
yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, I know they
Yeah, or
did, I
Lynn,
didn't
one
think
of the
about
two,
it.
yeah, so that might be a good contact.
Yeah, that might be a different person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Sarah.
Okay. All right, are
I'll
we
see
ready to
some of
move
you next
on
week.
to the famous project tracker?
Okay, so I have migrated the project tracker to Excel, which is on the OneDrive on the town. After this meeting, I will email access to everybody so they can view it. I have printed copies for people who like prints better, but I don't have enough copies for everyone right now. So I think you can maybe share copies if you're.
It's like a diagram.
I want to make sure everyone's got
Oh, okay.
11.
So. So it's on the screen, and what I've done is I've done tabs. I've done a global plan tab, and then I've done tabs by property. And I have put a couple conservation easements where we have work to do there. We have work to do. So I've divided every list by property. So there's a global plan, and I've assigned like priorities 1, which I thought priorities 1 are going to be done this spring, summer, I mean this year, for sure. I would say beginning of the field season are going to start. And I'm not going to read them all. I'm just, I added like the mapping. And then there's a labor category where I try to put who's going to do what, So obviously I'm on most of them, so I didn't put my name. But, there's also a cost or funding source for items that need funding. Not everything requires funds. A lot of the items are just, mapping the trails. I just need to borrow the equipment from the DPW. So not everything requires funds. And so I thought Neil and I thought if we have this, we can definitely keep better track of what's been done, what's ongoing, what needs like rethinking or, with this chart. So this chart is going to be a live document. I'll keep updating it with what's going on. So on some of the, conservation easement, for example, Capstone, which is a conservation easement, when we did the monitoring with Ellen Snyder, we noticed a lot of illegal structures there, illegal crossing of like a little branch of the stream that gets to the Oyster River. So I just added that on there too, because that's things we need to do, even if we're going to work with the cottages and the owner, there's still some work that will have to be involved with. Doe Farm, the first one was like a sign for the trail to Baudette. As everybody knows, at Doe Farm, there's a connector trail allowed on the La Roche Farm property that then you just cross the road, Bennett Road, to get to Baudette. So all those little things I put on there so then we can just keep track of what gets done and get it off the list. So some things are pretty small projects, so like, a one-off, but I thought the more detailed we are on the project tracker, the more we can follow up on what we're getting accomplished. And so I don't want people to do it here, but either with the prints, and I'm happy to make more prints, so when I email it to you, I'm hoping it's a pretty straightforward. When I share it with you, you can just open it and look at it. That for the next meeting, we get comments from people on if people think like something should be more prioritized or less prioritized. So because there's so many items on there, it would be nice if people would be able to like look at it before the February and have some comments on something they think should be recategorized. Maybe I'm wrong, something's not that important right now, or things like that. And I tried my best to put like really everything. A lot of things are already like planned, or we already have the supplies. And some of the things are more kind of like, in the long term, or, more like we still need to find funding, or we still need to figure out how we're gonna accomplish it. So, I believe I have all the properties. I have Pike. And some of the items there, like for example, like some of the items I just have to coordinate with DPW for some of the things. So it's more like, just me coordinating, not me doing the physical or actual work. So I hope this is helpful in the long run for us at the meeting to discuss like priorities and how you can help support, my job with what needs to be done. So I hope it's helpful, and if people have comment on or things they think should be on there that I did not add, please, let me know so we can make the best of this document, this living document.
Aaron, no, go ahead, Ellen.
I have a question. Does the town have like I don't know, like cloud album where like, if volunteers or any of us like complete something or are in the process doing something to submit photos of like, so, in the future when like you need to write a report or something or put in Friday updates, like it's just easy for other people as well to submit that and show progress. Yeah.
I don't think we have that right now, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Right. I wonder if we could do something like the survey 123 that Steve set up for, like, problems on the trails.
Yeah.
That's reporting. So it's worth. I'll ask Steve. Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you. Yeah.
Veronique,
You had a comment?
if there's, I'm sorry, you still
Yeah.
working
No.
on it?
No. No.
If it says cost funding source supplies $2,025, does that mean that's already in the budget?
No, that was that's money I used from the supplies of 2025. So that's like, for example, the lumber for the benches, I already spent it from last year's.
Okay.
So that's already accounted for.
So all the ones that have the money on there have already been accounted for, like Milne and Longmarsh? See, it says supplies 2025.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever says supplies dollar 2025. Yeah.
So it's not
like-
$2,025?
No,
it's
sorry.
the year.
It's the
Okay.
year. Yeah.
Got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And then I plan to put like 2026 for whatever we use this year. Yep. So. Does it seem clear, like from looking at
Seems
it,
good.
like that to everybody?
I see my name a lot of times.
Yeah, well,
It's all
That you won't
voluntary.
even know.
that's great.
No good deed goes unpunished.
That's right.
So I just want to emphasize that, as Veronique said, we want this to be a collaborative, living document. So we really encourage you. I know once we leave the meeting, everybody's got many other things to do, such as their lives. But if you could take a look at it and provide feedback, because, we went through, and mainly Veronique and I went through and set what the priorities were. But that's not etched in stone. This is a committee. So if anybody wants to take a look, particularly at the number 1 and number 2 priorities, and say, you guys, switch them around, or we don't think this is so important, please let Veronique know, and we will make the adjustment. But this is a document we're going to go through every meeting, and then we'll chart progress, or we'll chart where things are lagging. So, and really want everybody's help on this. So,
Right.
thank you.
And the last page, I just wanted to mention when it's printed, because it's not clear because it didn't print the title. The last page is Neil, Anne, Rachel, G, and I, and myself's timeline for organizing the BioBlitz. So that's what it is. And so where things are done there, I just put like a green mark to say those are already done. And we'll keep updating that too as we go along. So.
Another comment that I have is I wonder if you can share comment access instead of just view access, and then like if
Yeah.
we have something, we can just put it on there.
Right, there's a comment box at the end of every row there. So actually, yeah, when I share the access, people can put comments in
Okay,
here
yeah.
and say like, what about this, or think this should be a different priority. So if your input stays in the comments, that would be great.
Yeah.
So.
Question, Veronique, I think it's the 4th page in of the hard copy. The property is Capstone CE.
Yeah, that's a conservation easement. So that's the property, that's a conservation easement, that's land that's conserved, that's preserved around the cottages
On the Oyster River.
of Technology Drive and the Oyster River of Technology Drive in Durham. And like I said, that's a lot of things were going on there that I need to at least coordinate to be taken care of. Okay. So that's why I put it on there, because that's going to be coordinating with the owners of the property.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep, of course. So, so I guess I'll move on to my
Question. Have you considered the old Baghdad Road extension out by, across 108 by the Durham Evangelical Church? That's town right-of-way as well, and there's a trail on it. It's not been paved or anything like that ever, but there's a trail on it. Goes right down to the stream over a little bridge and then crosses into Madbury. That's a fairly good stretch.
Okay, you'll have to
In other words,
show me.
the end of Old Baghdad is not where you say it is, it's further towards Dover.
Oh, I meant the end of the access to Stolworthy. That's what I meant. Yeah, I get it.
Right,
I
but
see
he
what
picks
you
up
mean.
again on 108 and continues on to the Madbury line and continues in Madbury, because that was the connection to Dover 200 years ago.
Yeah, it's an old Class 6 road.
Oh,
Class
Class
6
6
road.
road,
Class
right?
6 road,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Right,
Wow, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
right. And it goes right down to the stream and over a little bridge, and then up the other side and across into Madbury, and it continues a bit in Madbury.
That was where they tried to put the bike trail.
That's correct, yes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I've never been on it. That sounds.
Yeah, thank you. I'll have
Interesting.
to.
It is a
Still-
horse farm there. You run right into the horse farm if you continue into Madbury.
Okay, so I see what it is.
very
Thank
cool.
you. Yeah, I'll have to explore that.
Is it Green
Thank you.
Acres?
Yeah.
Green-
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Thanks, John. Report for this month. Registration is full for the astronomy night. I remind people that's Friday, January 23rd at from 5 to 7 p.m. at Wagon Hill. I've recruited a couple volunteers. So far I have Neil, I have a friend, 2 friends. If anybody, I don't know if anybody else signed up, but if anybody wants to come, and we're just gonna help like parking and gathering people together. I'm just thinking, especially for the end of the program, because it's gonna be dark, people are gonna have flashlights, because John said to bring flashlights, but just to kind of keep cohesion to the group, it's 30 people. I'm talking with John next week to just finalize details about how many people he's coming with and things like that. So that's pretty exciting. Sarah has also volunteered to help.
And what time is that again?
5 p.m., so it's 5 to 7.
And is there a, I won't call it a rain date, but a cloud date in case?
Oh, no, so I forgot to say, so there is no cloud rain date because it was just not possible because for those events, they just cancel at UNH Observatory. So the very generous offer from John Gianforte is if it's overcast and the outdoor program cannot happen, Karen has reserved the room here, and he has already presentation for people. And so when we get to the date and he tells me yay or nay, we'll send an email to all the people who are signed up, and we'll do promotion on the Facebook and stuff through Craig to tell people in case this is going to be a program here. But he has something ready for the same time and date. So. February and March events are going online, I think, this week or at the end of the week when Rachel comes back from her conference. February is going to be a story stroll for mostly targeted for people with toddlers and young children, because we just talked about having programs for different audiences. It's going to be Sunday, February 8th at 10 a.m. because we saw 10 to 11 is a good time for kiddos, and it's going to be about wildlife tracking. And I've made like a little bingo wildlife tracking for them to take with them. We selected a book, and it's going to be at Jackson's Landing on the nature trail. March is going to be a walk at Long Marsh, snowshoe if there's still enough snow. It's March 13, and it's on a Sunday at, don't want to miss speak, I think at 1 p.m. 1 to 3. And there's going to be talking points about history, geology. Sarah has tried to connect with somebody about the geology at UNH. Janet Mackey has kindly, I sent her the map of the route we're going to take, and Janet has kindly offered to send me a list of points, discussion points, because she's not going to be available, that I will just talk about during the walk. Stone walk, I mean, there's the stone walls, the cellars, there's plenty of history there, so that's what we'll do. And I'll be attending a wildlife tracking class with the UNH Co-op extension at the end of the January at the Rocks in Bethlehem. So I'll have a little more good information too for the February 8th walk.
Great.
That will be fresh in my mind. So like I said, Anne, Neil, and myself met about the BioBlitz organization last week, and as you saw on the project tracker, we have a timeline, a lot of things we need to get done by the end of February now, and we're going to organize that between ourselves and work on that, and mostly it's the promotion. We want the promotion to go Haley Andrew Odzi from UNH suggested we send the promotion out a little early because that's our first BioBlitz. And so, earlier than she would suggest normally so that we get traction on it. We had the presentation already at the library that's online through DCAT. We'll probably tag that at some point through the Friday updates when we have the poster ready to get interest. And also the other part of that is for us to confirm attendance from experts who will lead the groups. I already have a number of people committed just to confirm and have a firm list, and then also look for volunteers, which I'm planning to advertise on Nature Groupie to help us. I think the more volunteers we have, especially for our first one, more support that will be best prepared for everything. I'll be hosting a Trails Towards reminders, basics webinar and I had sent a doodle poll to everybody and the date that popped out for more than 20 people were available is February 17 from 6 p.m. So it'll be about a 45 minutes webinar. It will be on Teams. I will send the invite, create it and send the invite soon. And I'm planning to record it so I can send it to people who cannot attend. On the returning Trails Towards, so far the response has been pretty good. Reef and Angie Hammond, who have been monitoring and stewarding Long Marsh for a long time, are moving away to be closer to grandkids, so they just told me that they would not be available anymore, and I want to publicly thank them for all the work they've been doing there for over the years for us. We still have one trail steward there, Peter Brown, and I also I have two other people that are possible candidates that basically can connect there from Dame Road, and myself, I can get there pretty easily. So I'm confident that we'll find steady people to take their place. And at the webinar, I also, I'm hoping to get hopefully new people and get confirmation of all the people who attend the webinar that they still can be Trails Towards. Because I think that's an important part of our program monitoring our conservation areas. The Oyster River Forest Bridge, as I talked about at last meeting, which will be done by the DPW and volunteers conjointly. I ordered the materials from the lumber place in Dover. Sorry, I forgot the name. That the DPW.
Middleton Lumber?
Thank you. Middleton Lumber, the DPW works with them on a regular basis. So I went there, I placed a purchase order, so I was able to encumber the funds for the funds that were allowed in the year 2025. I worked with Gail. So basically the materials will be delivered beginning of April at Oyster River Forest. And we'll work from there with DPW.
Do they give you a discount?
No comment.
No comment. February 3rd, we were going to have a program with Diana Carroll about the mills, following, I think, an outdoor program we had. We had planned the program at the library. We were going to record it. Unfortunately, nobody from DCAT's available to record it that night. So Diana and I agreed that we really wanted it to be recorded by DCAT. That was kind of like the goal, why she's doing it. So we moved her presentation to April 7th at the library. And fortunately, February 3rd, Ranjit Bawa, who's an assistant professor of natural resources, who authored the paper, the most recent paper about invasives in the Northeast, which we've been talking about here and at the Conservation Commission. I've invited him and he's agreed to take that slot. And he has a presentation ready. So I hope most people can attend. Same, the library, Cheryl is drafting the poster and I'll send it to everybody. It would be great if people could attend. It's a 1-hour program and it's called Managing Woody Invasives in the Northeast US. And it's taking all the data from the study that is done in the past 5 years. And the paper he authored. So.
Excellent. That's great. Very timely.
And well, I've talked about the mapping already, and we've talked about the benches, the trails, etc. So I've been working on Project Tracker. I'm starting to look at grants available for this year and where we could be looking at. I'm gathering information to update the web pages. That's something I kind of started last winter, but I feel stronger this year that I have more knowledge of the properties and know, like, you know, kind of where I can update, add photos or add information on the different pages that we have on the land stewardship, on the conservation properties. So that's what I'm doing. And I'm attending a lot of webinar. I attended 2 webinars about bridge building, which will be useful for us to build that small crossing we want to build on the Yellow Trail to replace the rotten, non-existent crossing at Longmarsh, which we're gonna do this spring, because we have to until June 1st to accomplish that project to get reimbursed for the materials by the partnership, which we have a grant for that was extended kindly. Yeah, so I'm just mostly doing organizing the work ahead, finishing the presentation for the webinar, and I'm also presenting on the trails and conservation properties to the Associated Retirement Associate, to the Associate
Active retirement.
Okay, sorry. In February, and so I'm updating the presentation I had done last year a little bit for them, and I will be at the community church in February 25th.
Wow.
So that's pretty much it. Thank you. Yeah?
So I think it was in your notes, you have tracked the value of all the volunteer work, which is pretty impressive.
Yes.
So I know that you have reports in Friday updates fairly regularly. So I just wondered, just wanted to make sure that you put your volunteer value in every month or something, because it's really very significant.
That's a good, thank you, Caroline. So that's a good segue, because I was going to ask the committee if, so where I work at Gibner, there was actually a kind of a survey 123 that people filled in themselves to report their volunteer hours with a QR code. And I wonder if people thought here that would be, because for me, other than the days I do with the volunteers, for example, I really have no way to track the volunteer time that people spend on trail stewarding. I've asked people and they're kind of like, I really don't, you know, I walk it like once, twice a month, so, you know, they don't really know. Because I think actually there's a number of hours where I'm missing out on tracking because we don't have the appropriate method of reporting. The QR code / survey 123, I would say takes a little education, but over time it works pretty well at other places. So I thought it would be worth doing. It's not a big lift to start it and see if, you know, kind of like educate people, keep reminding people, you know, don't forget to put your hours, you know. I'm thinking especially for work that's not done like when I'm there, you know, when Neil is there, for example. You know, like I just asked Rolf, the volunteer who basically prepared all the bench kits, like how much time, you know, and he tried to guesstimate, because that was about like 60, 70 hours, you know, to cut everything, sand, prepare, tag. So, so yeah, I just wanted the committee's opinion if you thought we should pursue that to better track.
I would think so, because isn't it sometimes useful in grant?
All the time.
Yes, yeah, right.
So I mean, that's a good reason to put it, and if you explain that to people too, it'll make it seem more like not just some little petty thing we're collecting random hours. But
Yeah, so I'll talk
helps
to Steve Lotterman. He's the one who can create a new survey, you know, 1, 2, 3, something simple to enter.
We have tremendous potential for volunteers because partly the seniors, of course, who continue to move into Durham, and I think we're getting somewhat younger seniors as time goes on. And then secondly, the numbers of students from the university as well as the high school who technically are not volunteers oftentimes because they're getting credit of one sort or another from the institutions, but from our point of view, they're volunteers. So we have tremendous potential for growing the volunteer workforce.
But it's not just for grants, because it is it is important for grants, but I also think given the current environment, it's really important for community members to know that, you know, this is, you know, you're
Going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Veronique, you know, the Trail Steward app, I think it's Survey 123, that we use to report is very easy to use.
Yes, yeah.
And
I
so, you know, it takes 2 minutes,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
so.
no, thank you. Yeah,
I
that's why I said
think-
I'll talk to Steve to if he can just create a
Create
separate
something
new
that,
one.
yeah.
And then I think it takes a lot of education, a lot of repeating, you know, sending
Reminder,
sporadic email reminders to say,
Right.
you know, don't forget to put your, you know, your hours in. At Gibner, I know some people were not familiar with apps and things like that, so they would end up emailing, and the volunteer coordinator and the person would add the hours into it, which I probably still give the possibility to people, but really as a last resort, so that people get used to using the app.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would it be helpful to create, not that I'm trying to create more work for people, but to have a point person that collects this information rather than it falling on you?
So I think if we do the app, then it's going to be the app tallies automatically and sends reports. You know, and then, yeah, maybe somebody, I mean, the app sends reports right now to Steve Lutterman and myself, for example, for the trail, you know, trail report. And so we can set it to send an email to another person, another point person. I'll have to talk to Steve and see what's the best setup for it.
And it may
Thank
just
you.
take time to educate people,
Right.
you know, gradually.
Yes.
Because it's very user-friendly.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I wanted to bring that up today because I want to have it set up for the webinar. So at the end, I can show people on the screen, here's the QR code, scan, you know, and things like that. So,
Yeah.
So if everybody agrees, I'll go ahead with working that with Steve.
Yeah, I don't think we need a vote on that. I think
Yeah,
it's
no,
just-
I'm just
it just seems like a
asking.
good
I'm just
idea.
asking. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move on to the meeting minutes, and thank you very much, Veronique.
Thank you.
It looks like you're not spending too much time, you know, hanging around on the couch watching, you know, old reruns of the Gilmore Girls. So, okay, so our own Marty Supreme revised the November minutes for the third time based on feedback from Gail at our last meeting, and then those are resent out, and along with the December minutes. So I just would like to see if everybody is ready to take a vote on approving.
Do you want a
or not.
motion for one or two together or separately?
I think two together is fine.
All right, I'll make a motion that we accept the November and December meeting minutes.
I'll second that.
Okay, and now we open it for discussion. Anybody have any comments?
The only thing is that I spell my name with 2 L's.
Oh, you spell your name with one L?
2 L's.
Oh, you spell it with two L's?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll, which,
It's in the December one.
December minutes, okay. Thank you.
And November.
And November.
Oh, okay, December and November, okay. All right, we'll get back to Marty to make that spelling correction. And so if there's no more discussion, I would like to have a show of hands for those who would like to approve the minutes
With changes.
with one L added. Okay, so approved. Okay, now committee updates and roundtable. So Ted, do you have anything to add from your presentation?
No, we're covered from the trustees' perspective, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Carolyn, anything?
The LCHIP final report for Wagon Hill Farms Bickford Chesley House has been submitted. We have a site visit coming up, and so things are going well.
So when is the official opening?
Well, we're coordinating that. We're figuring when that will be.
TBD?
Yes.
Okay.
And just the grant amount was $286,000 from LCHIP
I think so, plus we got a
Plus-
moose plate, so,
Yep.
you know, total was what? 306.
Yeah,
I think.
and I think 13,000 prior to the.
Yes.
From LCHIP to
Yeah.
do the evaluation.
Yeah. And we've raised actually quite a bit of money for the gallery. So things are going well.
Well, just on a personal note, I know that there have been a lot of not so positive comments about the expenditure and all the work on Bickford Chesley, but I personally think it's going to be a wonderful addition for
It
the
is.
town, a wonderful place, and
And, you know, you
great job on it.
if you want a property to be income producing, you know, it's got to be in good shape. So I think the people who are making the comments are a little unfamiliar with how community resources are managed, because once you have a site that is in good repair, you can do a lot.
And it'll be inviting, and it'll be a place people are going to want to go to, so
And it's beautiful.
that's wonderful. Great job to everybody involved. Okay, Gail, you have anything to add? No? Ann? Mr. Administrator?
Just to note that we are planning to move forward with the Wagon Hill Shoreline Phase 2 restoration this season, or in 2026. And so Rich Rain indicates he's going to be meeting with the construction company to flag trees, because some trees will have to be cut to access the shoreline. And will involve Wayne Burton, who's one of our stewards for the property, as part of that, so he's aware of what will be done. And so we're in a January melt right now, but when it freezes up again in February, that's likely when the cutting will take place. And then that will then allow access for the construction season later in '26.
Wow,
Just to
that's
let you
great.
Nothing from the AgCom to report.
Okay. Carden,
Yeah, and
anything?
the town council in December, Neil and Dwight presented the proposed changes to the wetland and shoreland overlay districts, which were very, designed to be ecologically very, very strong. And there was a big meeting, and a lot of the people who are impacted objected to them, and there was a lot of misunderstanding, I think, at that meeting as well. So some of that was clarified by the discussion we had at the December meeting. But I think it's going to be a tough sell, and that'll be, ongoing for a while at the planning board. And secondly, to Carolyn's point about the current environment, don't try and get any funding from the town over this next year. We'll have to either raise the money, Carolyn's done a great job, other people, and use volunteers, because the budget was very, very difficult to pass this year. And because of the reassessment, some people are being hit with very significant increases in their property taxes just based on their property being worth more. So there's a lot of sensitivity to, as Carolyn said, to any additional requirement from town funding. In January, the only thing we really did was update the school district plans, and they're doing a new project that will add to property taxes as well. So unfortunately, it's all coming at the same time. I think their proposal is very reasonable, but it's going to be a tough time, I think, with the, particularly people who have been impacted by the reassessment. They're having a huge, very significant increase in taxes, and they already pay quite a bit, so.
If I might add something to that, we need to remind people that we do not have an income tax or a sales tax, and that the only tax that can cover a lot of these expenses is that property tax. And as we head now towards the town elections, not too far into the future, there'll probably be some people who will be running based on concern over the rise in property taxes. But we need to remind each other and everyone else that we don't pay these other taxes, and therefore we're going to have to take it in the property tax. But we don't want good town programs to be too badly hurt as a result of any cuts that are made. So just to keep that in mind as we talk to our neighbors about the coming elections.
Elliot, you have anything you want to say? No? Okay. Veronique, we've heard from you, so I just want to add two things. Carden mentioned the new wetland and shoreland overlay district ordinance that the Conservation Commission has been working on for a couple of years now. And due to the feedback that we got from people who would be impacted by it, we have broken up into 3 subgroups. And of the 9 people on the Conservation Commission, we've broken into 3 groups of 3. And we're meeting separately to address all the concerns that we can. So we have documented all of the, everything that we've gotten in writing. And we have a document by section in the ordinance that calls out what people are concerned about. And in our subgroup that I'm in, which is in the buffers subgroup, which was a big area of concern, we've had a lot of people from the public come to our subcommittee meetings. And so it's been really good, really informative, and we're making changes that we believe will strike a balance between the concerns of the property owners and still protecting the natural resources in the shoreline and all the other wetlands in town. So it's going to be a process before it gets handed off back to the planning board. And then the other thing that I wanted to comment on was the herbicide roundtable that was brought up by the Mathis Cove Road residents, and that was supposed to happen yesterday, but the toxicity expert from the state, a guy named Dave Russo, could not make it yesterday, and so it's going to take place the week of March 22nd. So I know Ann and Gail both expressed interest in going, so I'll keep everybody on the subcommittee informed. And if you have time and you can attend, it would be really good. So we'll have Dave Russo, we'll have folks from the town, and we will have as many people here who want to participate and as many Mathis Cove Road participants. And I'm currently working on organizing the topics and the questions so we can kind of stay somewhat, not make it too broad, but really focus on what the concerns are and how the town can address them. So that's where we are, and I'll keep everybody updated.
Neil, March 22nd is a Sunday.
Oh, okay,
Is that
the
the
week of
plan?
March 22nd. Yeah, sometime that
Okay.
week. I don't know when. I think I proposed either the 23rd or the 24th. I think the 24th, which is the Tuesday. So I think what we're doing now is waiting to hear back from Dave Russo as he can commit to that date. And then, Rich Rain and his crew, and we all will gather, and maybe we'll have coffee in Galette.
That's real attracted. We have a wonderful attendance this morning.
Yeah.
Yes.
Food brings people in.
Please
Yes.
eat more galette, and and thanks Neil for helping out with
And thank you for
breakfast.
your hospitality. Okay,
Neil?
wow, it is 10.
A point on the 24th, depending upon when you schedule that, the trustees are here 8:30 to 10.
In this room, 8:30 to 10? Okay, good. That's good to know. Maybe we'll have to make it on the following day. All right, that's good to know. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, 10:31, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
And who would like the second? Okay, show of